What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, CTC Fishing. I appreciate y'all taking a second out of your day to check out this video. Here in the rod shop today, fixing a couple eyes on a couple rods, trying to get some things ready for a couple big tournaments I got coming up. But I was kind of looking around at my setups in here that are sitting in here, and there's a common denominator with all of them, and several of them have got chatterbaits tied on, right? And so today's video, I wanted to go over, chatterbaits, why they're my number one lure these days, it seems like, and why you're missing out if you're not throwing them.
I got a bit on it. Not what I wanted, but it was a bite. Oh my God, that's the one. That's the one right there. That's what we need. Decisions, man. Big one, but he's gonna...
All right, so when it comes to chatterbaits, I mainly stick with the chatterbait brand, like most guys. That direct, head connection is really key. I don't know if you can see that. Where that blade is directly fixed to the eye, and there's not, a split ring or something in the middle. That really seems to be key. I know the patent is ending on the Z-Man products, or has ended if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to start seeing more and more companies probably producing a chatterbait with a similar structure, the way it's built, just because this seems to be the best in terms of startup speed, and it just seems to get more bites when it's directly fixed to the head, because it engages immediately when you throw it. As far as like most guys, there's no secret here, right? I am pretty much a huge proponent. This is a jackhammer, right? And I think you'll see a common theme, on YouTube these days. Everyone, throws a jackhammer pretty much, and for good reason, because it just gets a lot of bites. It gets big bites. It just seems to consistently, day in and day out, outfish most other chatterbaits. So for that reason, I'm pretty much a huge believer in a jackhammer. Have been since the day I put one in my hand. The results speak for themselves. The two others that I kind of will mess with from time to time are a Mini Max chatterbait, which is just a downsized version of kind of a jackhammer. It's very similar. It doesn't have quite the same componentry, but it's just a more finesse version kind of a jackhammer with a smaller blade, smaller profile, but still a decent sized hook on it. And then the other one I would go on the other end of that would be a big blade chatterbait. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a big bladed chatterbait with a big oversized blade that Brian Thrift produces a lot more vibration, typically more lift, and definitely has its place in dirty water situations early in the spring when you're trying to slow it down but keep it up. And so I have caught some fish on it that way, but day in and day out, it's really hard to beat a jackhammer. And I think you'll hear that from a lot of guys, right? And I know it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to spend, they were 16. I think with tariffs now, they're up to 18, 17.99, 18.99. I don't know how much a jackhammer is these days. It's let's just call it close to $20 with tariffs now. And that's a lot of money to spend on a lure, but when you get the results that you get, you'll see why so many guys are willing to pony up that $20 bill almost in order to get one of these things. They get bites, and I'm talking about big bites, lots of bites, and everything in between. They perform in all situations. Obviously, grass, they excel incredible in grass. And I've had tons of success doing that. The other thing that they're really good on is do nothing banks, docks. I've caught a pile of fish this year fishing cypress trees with it. And now you got to understand, throw it a jackhammer. There is no weed guard on that thing. It is going to get hung up. And if you're fishing this thing around wood, you've got to be prepared to get hung up. That's just a fact of how it is. But what you'll see is a lot of times these things fished around wood, you get reaction strikes like you wouldn't believe on fish that I think just aren't accustomed to seeing it up there that tight to wood cover, or there's just something about it, man. I can go down banks on some of the rivers around here and fish it real tight to cover, making precise casts, and fish behind guys and absolutely vacuum the fish like they've never seen it before in their life. Now, again, you're going to get hung up a lot. You got to be prepared for that. And if you're willing to put this near $20 bait in peril, more often than not, you can get some bites year round on it. And so that goes back to why I like it so much. I mean, I've caught fish on this bait in water temps mid 40s, 45, 46 degrees. That cold, barely engaging it, fluttering it through some old, new growth grass and some old dead grass. And I've caught them obviously all the way up to mid 90s in the middle of the summer water temp. And so it never has a period where it doesn't work. I feel like it always works, at least where I'm at. As long as you can throw it and you're not iced out, you can pretty much catch them year round on a chatterbait. I think the biggest thing with it is most guys just don't have a lot of confidence in it. The guys around me that I've met that aren't sold on it yet, don't throw it a lot, don't have it rigged up all the time, are guys who I think just have not built enough confidence with it yet to see what it can do. Because I mean, it's got some crazy fish calling ability with that vibration. And you can really, I mean, I hate to be a dead horse, but you can catch a lot and a lot of big ones. I think my PB chatterbait fish right now is just over 9 pounds. I think I caught one over 9 down on the Pasquotank River with it in the Albemarle Sound. But I've caught a pile of 5 to 7 pounders on it. It just seems to get big bites more frequently than most lure categories would. Not to say you can't catch big ones on square bills, throwing a worm, throwing a topwater, because all of those things have their place. But I've just noticed over the last 3-4 years, the more I keep this in my hand, the better I do. There's certainly situations where it excels better than others. You definitely want some wind more often than not. You want a little bit of ripple on that surface to kind of break it up. Clouds don't hurt. But, with that being said, I have caught them on hot, slick, sunny days on this thing, on lakes and rivers. As long as your presentation's good and, your angle, that's huge. Casting and angles is a huge part of this, and repeat casting, especially on hardcover objects like docks or cypress knees or things like that. Sometimes you're not going to get them on that first bite, on that first pass or cast to a piece of cover. You've really got to work things over a lot of times with it in order to elicit strikes. But they will bite it. I mean, it's just like with a square bill, right? Sometimes you've got to hit a log or lay down 3-4 times with a square bill in order for one to come out and eat it. Same thing with a chatterbait, but oftentimes it don't take that many casts. And more often than not, you put that thing right up in there in the strike zone, he's going to eat it on the first cast if you put it right there in his face. So that's obviously why I like it so much. I've won a lot of money on it. And there's no secret about it. Most of my short clip videos the last year or two have been just me throwing a jackhammer around, and I'll just lock it in my hand and just go fishing and see where I end up at the end of the day. And more often than not, it works. It's not perfect, but it works pretty good. As far as setup, I think setup is super critical for not only getting the bite, but landing the fish. And I've kind of been on both sides of this. Like there's a kind of a debate when it comes to chatterbaits. Do you use a graphite rod with like a medium heavy, moderate fast type action, or do you use a glass rod? And I've kind of messed around with both. I had a couple of rods back when I was with Kistler that worked. But I've since going with Daiwa now, I'm on the team over at Daiwa. I've been really searching around with them trying to find the right rod, and I really think the last 6-8 months I found the rod that I think is almost perfect for chatterbait. And so it's a Zillion 7.3 heavy flex light glass blank. So it's essentially like a hybrid. So it's kind of a graphite and fiberglass composite rod. It's extremely light. I'm talking about extremely light, but it's powerful. And so heavy action is really critical for me, mostly because I really lean on a 1/2 ounce chatterbait a lot. I do throw a 3/8 too in certain situations, but I really like that 1/2 for overall fishing. And so that 7.3 heavy really seems to be a great all-around action, to still be able to put it where I need it, but rip it out, be powerful when you get the bite and all those things. Like it just seems, and that's across the board, right? I had 7.3 when I was back with Kistler as well. 7.3 heavy was really my deal. That's what I like. May not be for everybody. A lot of guys will throw a medium heavy, but I do really feel underpowered. By the time I add a trailer to a chatterbait, I feel underpowered when I throw a medium heavy rod. So like I said, a 7.3 heavy glass Zillion has really been what I've settled on. And I actually throw, they don't make it anymore. Sorry, Daiwa. I wish you'd bring it back. But they make the Rebellion series as well. It's a 7.3. It's basically a 7.3 heavy as well, and it's another composite rod. It's just a different model line, but it's very similar to the Zillion. They don't make it anymore, but this is what I first started on my Daiwa kick with, and I've been very addicted to this rod, and so I've kind of been experimenting ever since, but the action pretty much stays the same. 7.3 heavy glass, or some sort of composite. It really seems to load up well, and especially when I'm fishing grass, when you rip that thing, using that glass rod, there's a delay there where it doesn't immediately exit the cover, but it kind of loads and then breaks free. And I feel like that load and break free part is super critical to get you some extra bites. I strictly throw, and I mean 98% of the time I throw 20-pound fluorocarbon. That's just what I've always done. Started out with Seagar and Vizex, switched over to Daiwa J Fluoro, really Samurai, Daiwa Samurai. But 20-pound has always been my key. I very, very rarely will ever go below that. The only time I might go below that is if I'm throwing a 3/8 and I'm trying to keep it a little higher. I might go down to 17, but 17 is a big ass, especially around here where we live. We got a lot of big fish. You don't know if that bite on this thing could be a 3-pounder, it could be a 10-pounder. So I try to always stay prepared. Heavy rod, big line. And the other thing that's super critical for me, about 80% of the year, I still stick with a 6:3 gear ratio. 6:3 has been very good to me. I don't overwork it. I don't have to fight it too much. Just there's something about that 6:3 gear ratio that really kind of slows me down and allows me to get a lot of bites. The only time I'll switch from that, sometimes in the summertime, like right now, summer and going into fall, I'll throw a 7.3. But that's just when I'm fishing shallow and I'm just trying to be more efficient. You can definitely get away with a 7.3, but I feel like a lot of times I'm just a fast guy in general. I'm burning down the bank a lot. So I feel like me throwing that 7.3, I'm just overworking it a little too fast. And so that just throwing that 6.3 keeps me in the exact rotation on my hand and my brain. It just keeps me right. I feel like it gives me more bites. Could be wrong, but that's kind of what the system I've always gone with. So I just like to stick with it. And so that's kind of my setup. 7.3, Zillion heavy glass, with the flex light, 20-pound fluorocarbon. This is a Tatula SV 150. Started throwing these this year. I used to throw them on a Tatula Elite, and I really like that. But this 150 Tatula SV has been very good for what I like to do with it. Skipping it, bait placement. The breaking's perfect. I'm able to put that bait exactly where I need it all the time, to A, get bites, and B, try not to get hung up as much as possible. So that's kind of my setup. Real simple. I don't vary a lot as far as, setup's concerned. That's pretty much my go-to. Obviously, when it comes to the chatterbait itself, like I said before, half is really my go-to. 3/8, I'll go to it if I have to. If I'm like on the Potomac or if I'm fishing very shallow grass, I'll go to a 3/8. And very rarely do I go heavier than that. I've had a few situations where I've caught them on a 3/4, but it's not an everyday thing. It's really more specialized than anything. Whereas you can take a 1/2 ounce jackhammer and you can just go to work wherever you go, pretty much. And, with that being said, there's a few other brands that I'll mix in. I know I spoke in the beginning about strictly being, a jackhammer guy, and that's what I'm always going to lead with. There's a few others out there, Japanese especially, that will get the nod on occasion. If I'm throwing around a lot of wood, especially kind of earlier in the year, I've messed around with that Kitech rum blade. It's got like a wire that comes off the front similar to a spinnerbait, and the blade fixed attachment is very different than compared to this. It's much more subtle, but I've noticed it's incredible around wood. So if I'm fishing early in the year and I don't need tons of vibration, I will throw that rum blade around a little bit. Have had a little success on that. I've also caught them on a brake blade, a Jackal brake blade as well. But for the most part, I always end up coming back to a jackhammer. It just seems like if I go down a bank with any other brand or any other chatterbait and I don't catch them, in my head I'm like, maybe I should have went down with a jackhammer. So more often than not, this is where I start, and unless the fish tell me I absolutely need to change it, or if I want to go back and clean up, is about the only time I'll change it. As far as trailers are concerned, I keep it fairly simple. There's probably only 4 trailers out there that I throw with any consistency. Really, I've got like 2 schools of thought. I'm either throwing a minnow style trailer, or I'm throwing something with some flappers on the back of it trying to imitate a bluegill or some sort of bait fish, right? And so one that I've caught tons of fish on over the years now at this point has been a kamikaze swim on from Big Bite Baits. I think it does a really good job. It caught me a ton of fish, lots of colors. You can do what you want with it. The only thing I will say about the kamikaze from time to time, that little bubble, that little circle, if you can see that circle in the claw sometimes can come back and get wrapped right here, right? And that's the only downfall of the kamikaze, but it does create a little bubble trail, and for the most part, I can work around it. So I've had a lot of luck on this one. The other trailer that I've had tons of success with, as far as a bluegill or bait fish with flappers, would be a Berkeley the Deal. Used to be Skeet Reese's kind of signature bait. I know Skeet's not with Berkeley anymore, but that deal is the deal. So I still throw that around, especially a lot early in the year, or if I think bluegill are present. It's definitely one of those 2 is going to get the nod. Now, in terms of bait fish profiles, I have 2. One you've kind of seen in this video so far. It's a fairly new one for me over the last couple years. Last year or so, I think it's been out. And my partner Jared kind of turned me on these. Shout out Jared. But this is the Shimmer Shad from Zoom. It's a little different. It's just a bait fish, kind of like your Zako that historically has been great, for a chatterbait, like the Gary Yamamoto Zako. And still use that. Caught a ton of fish on that too, but it's just not in my rotation as much as these other 4 are. So the Shimmer Shad's one of them. And then the other one, my favorite, would be a Hog Farmer Spunk Shad. And that's no secret. Lots of guys out there throwing the Hog Farmer. Spunk Shad is the absolute deal. That pintail on the back just gets to wobbling real hard. It's very hard to beat. With that being said, all of the, especially the bait fish profiles, they get hung up more than I feel like the bluegill profiles do, just because of the narrowness of the body, and that thing rolls left or right, and every time it rolls left or right, and that's part of what gets you a lot of bites, is that rolling action. It exposes that hook point. So it's just part of it, right? So if I'm really fishing around wood, a lot of times I'm going to take a bluegill style trailer, and instead of it being vertical, I'm going to rotate it horizontal so that the bait has more, it rides more level and has less resistance to go left and right. And so it'll have a less chance to hang up. But with that, I just feel like it does kind of take away from some of the bites. So more often than not, I'm running either a bait fish profile or I'm running a vertical, and I'm trying to keep it from getting hung up as best I can, and I'm just dealing with it just because I'm just kind of a little superstitious and I just want as many bites as I can possibly get. So I keep it pretty standard issue as far as trailers are concerned. I don't vary it too much. But you know, the only colors, I don't go crazy with colors. I throw a bluegill type color. I throw a black and blue color, you know, in dirty water or early morning situations. And I throw a white, you know, a white or a white and chartreuse. It just kind of depends. You know, that white chartreuse really gets the nod also in dirty water if I'm really trying to target shad. You know, and then more of a clear water shad or that real translucent style, obviously in clearer water, highland impoundments when I go there. But I keep it pretty simple. I don't need, they make 27 colors of a jackhammer. I really don't need that many of them. I keep it pretty straightforward. Bee Height Delight is probably my number one. And that's simply a green pumpkin with a little chartreuse belly. It's just trying to look like a bluegill. Nothing too fancy. That's what I started with, and I've been blasting them on it for years. And a straight white one would be my two if I could only pick two. And then obviously it's kind of hard though. That black and blue one's really hard to turn away too. But that's really about it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing groundbreaking in this video at all. I would say the number one tip is use it. Get used to using it. Throw it a lot and try to build yourself some confidence in throwing it. I mean, there's a reason that these things cost so much. It's because they work. And if you're dedicated with it and you just keep it in your hand and you try to use it in a lot of different scenarios, it's going to open your eyes too. You'll see how good it can be for you. You just got to throw it around and you got to be prepared to get hung up. But that's it, man. Quick, you know, not quick, but 20-minute video of me just talking about my favorite technique really at this point in my life. Jackhammer, chatterbait, throw it, go get bit. Y'all catch them. Appreciate y'all checking out this channel. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I appreciate all the support. Love you guys.